All right, so today our review game is going to help us to study for our test. So remember, tomorrow there is a test over sections 5.1 to 5.4. Here's the first question, all right? So I'm looking for the first team that puts their answer up in the air. All right, for the first problem, it says to solve the proportion and then tell which method you used. Don't forget to tell me the method. I do not care whether you do it mental math, multiplication, or cross products. Just let me know which one you used. All right, so listen, on our quiz from yesterday, a lot of people messed up on this. Watch this right here. A lot of you just did mental math, but look, I am trying to figure out how to get from a 36 over to that y. In order to do that, I have to figure out how to get from a 54 to a 9. How do I get from a 54 to a 9?
Divide by 6.
Divide by 6. A lot of you were trying to multiply by 6, but if it's getting something bigger and getting to something smaller, you have to divide. So then you're going to look, 54 divided by 6 equals 9. 36 divided by 6 equals? 6. So for this one, y equals 6. And the method that you use, listen, a lot of people on their test or their quiz just wrote mental. It's not called mental. It's called mental math, okay? So make sure you tell me it's mental math. All right, there will be a vocab section on your test. So the question is asking, what is a comparison of two quantities called? Okay, so for example, something like this might say something like 2 cups to 1 cup, okay? So what's happening here, it's comparing two quantities. What's that called, guys?
Ratio.
That is a ratio. Number 3, we've got another vocab word here. What is a ratio of two quantities using different units called? So for this case, it's something like this. 5 miles to 2 gallons. Notice there are different units there. If there are different units, this is called a rate. For this one, it asked us to solve the proportion and tell which method we used. We actually are not able to use mental math or multiplication on this one, so you have to do cross products. All right, so listen, the main thing that people messed up on their quiz was this portion right here. I have to multiply x plus 2 times a 4. Okay, so the number that's standing alone is going on the outside. And then I have to multiply both of those times x plus 2. That's where most people made the most mistakes. What's that called when I have a number on the outside? Distributive property. Guys, if your board doesn't look like this, I need you to erase it and fix it. This is 4x plus, what's 4 times 2? 8. And 10 times 2 is 20. So now we're going to subtract 8, because if you remember long ago, I told you about these numbers that are attached to the variable. Keep them together as long as you can. This cancels out. Then we're left with 4x equals 12. You want that x to be by itself, so you divide by 4. And your final answer, x equals 3. Once again, the way that we did this, a lot of people on their quiz said, I did it by cross. That doesn't make sense. Cross what? Cross products. So make sure when you're telling me which method you used, it's actually the entire method. Okay, cross products. This asks us to tell whether or not the quantities are proportional by finding the value of the ratio. Remember, when you're working from top to bottom, we are dividing. So you're trying to divide that top number by the bottom number. And then tell me whether or not they are proportional. Okay, so for this first one, what's 135 divided by 15? 9. Next one, what is 90 divided by 10? 9. What is 72 divided by 12? 6. And the final one, what is 22.5 divided by 4.5? 5. Guys, are those proportional?
No.
How can you tell?
Because they're not the same number.
The values are different for the ratios, so this is not a proportional table. All right, number 6 is another vocab term you're going to need to know for your test. What compares a quantity to one unit of another quantity? On this one, there's something kind of a key word. 1 and Unit. Okay? A unit rate is something that always has a denominator of the number 1. So the correct answer, this is a unit rate. Okay? Guys, you guys seem like you got to spend a little extra time memorizing and going through what these vocab words mean. Number 7 is asking you to tell whether or not the rates are equivalent. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can either do it by finding the unit rate of each one or by doing cross products. I do not care which way you do. As you guys just did that, how many of you would say you did it by finding the unit rate? Okay, when finding the unit rate, what you did was you did 60 feet in 2.5 minutes. And then you also found 85 feet in 3.4 minutes. If you remember, this fraction bar means to divide. So what's 60 divided by 2.5?
24.
24. So that means 24 feet in 1 minute. And over here on this one, what's 85 divided by 3.4?
25.
25. Guys, do those look like they equal the same thing? No, the answer is no. How many of you would say that you did cross products? All right, when you did cross products, you would have had 60 over 2.5 equals 85 over 3.4. Remember, with cross products, you are circling what is diagonal from each other. When you multiply that out, 60 times 3.4 equals 2.5 times 85. Guys, what's 60 times 3.4? 204. And what is 2.5 times 85?
212.5.
Do those equal each other? No. So still, no matter which way you do it, you can see the answer is no. All right, for number 8, we are finding what the unit rate is for a half a mile for 1/16 of a gallon. Anytime you find the unit rate, you are going to take the first thing, which is a half a mile, and divide it by the second thing, which is a 1/16 of a gallon. All right, so as we're doing this, this means 1/2 divided by 1/16. Am I allowed to divide a fraction? No. What method do we use? We got to use KFC. So I keep the first one, I flip the second one, and I change the operation. Can anything cross reduce there?
Yes.
The 2 and 16 become 1 and 8. All right, so now we get our final answer. Remember, units have to be attached for the unit rate. The 8 is going to be your numerator. 8 what, guys?
Miles.
8 miles per what?
1 gallon.
1 gallon, because a unit rate, you always want to have a denominator of 1. For this, we had a lot of people with issues on the quiz, okay? We're going to use this table to write what the ratio is, find the value, and then interpret it. Here's where I want you to see. Show me your answers as you find them. Remember, there's 3 ways to write a ratio. We are doing salt to flour. So what do you think comes first, class? Salt. Okay. So what is the salt? 1/2. Okay. What is the flour?
2 cups.
Here's all you need to write. 1/2 to 2. That's it. You don't need to attach units. You don't need to say 1/2 cup to 2 cups. You can just put 1/2 to 2. Now I want you guys to go ahead and find the value and show it to me on your boards once you have it. In order to find the value of the ratio, you take your first number and you divide your second number. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put a 2 over 1, okay? So now when I have to do that, what do I get when I multiply it out? It's going to be 1/2 times 1/2. Guys, what's 1/2 times 1/2? 1/4. Now I want you to work together with your team to figure out what that 1/4 means, okay? We know that's the value of our ratio, but I want you guys to interpret that as a team. When interpreting, we're going to start off with saying the amount of, guys, what was the first ingredient we were comparing? Okay, then I'm going to say the amount of salt is, and what was our value? 1/4. And then guess what I'm going to say? The amount of whatever the second unit was. So look, this should not be something difficult, but a lot of people really messed up. it's going to say the amount of the first object is, and then whatever we came up with for our value, and then it'll say the amount of whatever the second object is, okay? So that should not be too difficult for us to come and understand what the interpretation means. So for this, the value is 1/4, which means the amount of salt is 1/4 the amount of flour. Once again, salt came first in our original problem, flour came second. So in our interpretation, salt will still come first and flour will still come second. Okay, for this one, find the missing values in the ratio table, then write the equivalent ratios. First off, we've got to figure out what the value is. If I am going from a top number to a bottom number, what sign do I do?
Divide.
I'm dividing, okay? So I am going to be doing 4 divided by 1/2, which means 4/1 divided by 1/2, okay? So this now goes 4/1 times 2/1. Guys, what's the value? 8, because 4 times 2 is 8, okay? If you didn't get the value, it was 8. Does someone have a question? All right, how many of you actually got that the value was 8? Okay, how many of you got that it was something different? All right, a lot of you, what you did is you multiplied them. You've got to remember, you always take the top number and you divide by the second number. All right, now that I know that's my value there, I can fill it in to find the mystery of what this one and this one are going to be. For this next one, I am working from the bottom to the top. So what sign do I have to do?
Multiply.
I've got to multiply. 1/4 times 8. Can anything cross reduce?
Yes.
The 4 and the 8, what do they become?
2.
1 and 2. Guys, what's the answer?
2.
2. I want you guys to find the last one on your own. For this one, I am going from top to bottom, which means I have to divide. So I am dividing 6 divided by 8. Can that be reduced? People are forgetting how to reduce, guys. What goes into a 6 that goes into an 8? A 2 divided on top and bottom. What does that become? 3/4. Now listen, many people are putting it in here like this. Why will I not accept that answer? If this was a fraction and this was a fraction, guess what I want my answer right there to be? I want them all to be like terms, so it is going to be also a fraction. So let's go ahead and come up with our equivalent ratios. What's the first one, guys?
4 to 1/2.
Okay, what's the next one?
2 to 1/4.
And what's the final one?
6 to 3/4.
All right, and those are my equivalent ratios. This is asking you to tell whether the ratios form a proportion, and I want you to use cross products, okay? So 4 to 9 and 2 to 3. Listen, some people had a hard time with this on the quiz. Take the first one, 4 to 9. So you're going to write it as 4/9 equals 2/3. Remember with cross products, I don't understand why people are still struggling with this part, but I want to help you to understand. You are multiplying across. 4 times 3 equals 9 times 2. 4 times 3 is 12. 9 times 2 is 18. Do those equal each other?
No.
No, so we're going to put a little slash there. The answer is no. They do not equal each other, therefore they do not form a proportion. All right, for this one, it's a modeling real life problem. It says the cost for 16 ounces of cheese is $3.20. What is the cost for 25 ounces of cheese? Remember, modeling real life, you always want to have some kind of unit attached. You're going to want to start off this kind of a problem by making a proportion, okay? So some kind of ratio set equal to each other. First thing we're going to do is we're going to see the cost for 16 ounces was how much, guys? $3.20. So notice I have ounces on the top and money or dollars at the bottom. So for this, when I equal it, the ounces have to go on the top. That's where people have made the most mistakes. You've got to have them compared equally, which means the mystery money that we're trying to figure out is going to be down there on the bottom, okay? So I'm going to take 16 and multiply it by that x. So 16x equals $3.20 times 25. Guys, what's $3.20 times 25?
$80.
$80. We got to get this by itself, so we're going to divide by 16. X equals what? $5. All right, for this modeling real life problem, you do 90 sit-ups in 3.75 minutes, and your mom does 126 sit-ups in 5 minutes. Do these rates form a proportion? So once again, there's two ways you can do it. You can find it by the unit rate, or you can find it with using cross products. In the end, yes or no, do they form a proportion? All right, I saw a lot of people doing cross products. Just remember, if you do it, 90 sit-ups needs to go up on the top per 3.75 minutes. When you're comparing, you just have to make sure this one is also sit-ups on top, 126 sit-ups, over 5 minutes. How many of you did it this way?
Kind of.
Okay, when you multiplied the 90 sit-ups by 5 minutes, what'd you get?
450.
450? When you multiplied 3.75 times 126, what'd you get?
472.5.
472.5. Guys, do those equal each other?
No.
No. So the correct answer is no. Final question of the day. What are two ratios that are set equal to each other called? This is the last vocab word. What are two ratios that are set equal to each other called? All right, for the final question of the day, they are called a proportion.
Oh, we got that right. We got that.
All right, so don't forget, guys, study 5.1 to 5.4 for your test tomorrow.